Salve a tutti, sono Almarok e benvenuti in un nuovo video. Oggi siamo qui per fare un'intervista a Nick Barker, famoso per essere stato batterista dei Cradle of Filth, dei Dimmu Borgir, degli Old Man's Child, dei Look Up, dei Brujeria e per aver fatto parte anche di band come Gorgoroth, Ancient e Shining. Prima di iniziare, oltre a ringraziare Nick per la sua disponibilità, vi invito su sua richiesta e ovviamente se potete a donare al suo GoFundMe, di cui vi lascio il link sotto in descrizione, per aiutarlo con le sue cure, dal momento che le condizioni di salute di Nick da qualche anno sono molto difficili. Detto questo, vi lascio l'intervista e vi auguro buona visione. First of all, nice to meet you and thank you for staying today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
The first question, the most important, Nick, how are you? What about your health condition? And let's talk about your GoFundMe, first of all.
Okay, well, as many of you probably know, I went through kidney failure. I'm stage 5 chronic kidney disease, which means my kidneys have totally failed, and I have to have dialysis 4 times a week for 4 hours each time. And this is basically what is keeping me alive right now. I'm on the transplant list. So I hope to get a new kidney sometime later this year. And this means that I cannot tour or make music or travel because of my dialysis schedule. So I have a GoFundMe page, which helps me basically because I cannot earn any money because I can't work anymore. So it's for fans to donate anything if they feel like it. And I appreciate all the help from everyone. And I hope to be back playing the drums very, very soon.
And now let's talk about the beginning of your career and your first band. So the first question is why you started to do music, why you started to do with metal music. Talk me about the beginning of your career, your influences on drum, and yeah, your first bands.
Okay, so my love for music started very early. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and my stepfather, who was an asshole, but he had great taste in music. I discovered AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Genesis, Foreigner, Queen, through his record collection. And as I got older, I wanted it to be more and more heavy. So this was around 7 or 8 years old, and then around 9 or 10, I discovered Iron Maiden, and AC/DC was a real popular band for me then. And then I discovered Saxon and Motorhead and all the British heavy metal bands, Def Leppard, Scorpions, Accept. And as I grew older, I became a teenager. My tastes grew more and more, and I was looking for more extreme. So from Iron Maiden and AC/DC, I discovered Metallica and Slayer and Exodus. And around 13 is when I first started to learn to play drums. And I never had lessons. I'm totally self-taught. And I learned just by drumming along to AC/DC records, and it developed from there. And as I grew older, through my teen years, obviously, I discovered like Dave Lombardo, drummers like Dave Lombardo and Gene Hoglan, and it just made me want to play faster and faster. And as I grew older, got into death metal because thrash metal it sold out a little bit, and death metal came in, so I was heavily into death metal. So again, my drumming style changed a lot because I learned to play blast beats and double bass. And then from death metal, I went into black metal. And then from Cradle of Filth, and then the rest.
And yeah, now let's talk about your story with Cradle of Filth. You're joining the band, the albums you have made with the band, at your point of view.
Yeah. Well, I was friends with Cradle of Filth because we used to tape trade. And I was in a death metal band called Monolith. We actually had some relative success in the UK. We supported Cannibal Corpse on the Tomb of the Mutilated tour. We played gigs with Carcass, Paradise Lost, Napalm Death. And so through the tape trading, we became friends with Cradle of Filth. And they invited me down to Suffolk where they lived, and they were going to record an album, which never got released. Their drummer at the time, he had a real hard time in the studio, and basically they just had to scrap the recording. And I said, well, I can play drums, and they gave me the job. And then I moved my things down there in 2 days' time. 2 days later, I was living down there, and we were rehearsing for the Emperor tour. And then after the Emperor tour, we carried on writing music for the Principle of Evil Made Flesh, and we went into Academy Studios in September '93 to record it. It was a great period because we were all young, we were all excited. We didn't understand the music industry. That's why we got screwed. But it was such an amazing time because we were creating something that was so new and unique for the time. I mean, Norwegian black metal sounded nothing like this, and we really made our own stamp and our own originality with the Principle of Evil Made Flesh. And I think, even though I don't like the production, and I certainly don't like the drum performance now, it's very embarrassing because I'm a lot older and I can play much better. It was a magical time. We were all, the camaraderie was there. I mean, we were all broke. Nobody had any money. So, we were literally just eating potatoes in the studio, fried potatoes. That's all we could afford. Sleeping on the floor, in the studio, and it was very cold because it was in the north of England. And around September, October, it starts to freeze in there. And it was a great time. We were young, we were excited, and we didn't really understand the impact that the Principle of Evil Made Flesh would have on the music scene. But it really did make an impact. And then from then on, it was a great success with the first album, and we recouped our money on the pre-sales. So we thought we was going to get royalties from the record company, but they screwed us, and they used the Cradle of Filth money to build the label and sign other bands like Gehenna, Dimmu Borgir, a band called Abyssos, 13 Candles, etc. And we ended up in a big legal fight with them, and as a result, we had to give them an EP which we called Vampire, and that's what released us from a contract, and that meant we could take the next album, Dusk and Her Embrace, to a real label, which was Music for Nations, and Music for Nations did an amazing job, and with Music for Nations we recorded Cruelty and the Beast also, and the popularity just kept growing and growing and growing. But as the popularity kept growing and growing, there was more and more problems because there was problems with money and finances and not so much transparency. And basically, one person was getting all the money. I think you know who. And the rest of us were kind of like, hey, well, what do we get? And so when I asked to see the accounts at the end of the Cruelty and the Beast European tour, because we were only coming home with merchandise money, there was big problems with the finances, and I wasn't happy. And when I found out that I wasn't allowed to see the accounts, then I decided this isn't for me anymore. I have to quit, and I moved on to Dimmu Borgir.
During the Cradle of Filth, you worked with Stuart Anstis. How do you remember about him, and what do you think about his very, very early death?
I was very, very upset when I found out Stuart had passed, because we were still in contact, we were still friends, and we spoke regularly, about music and stuff. And him and Les, they had enough material to make a new Cradle of Filth album, and me, Stuart, and Les was going to get together and write the Cradle of Filth album that never made it and call it something else. But everyone would know it would be the follow-up to Cruelty and the Beast because of the style and the band members involved. But unfortunately, it never came to fruition because, unfortunately, Stuart left us too early. He was an amazing guitarist. We didn't always get along. Sometimes, we clashed because we two very strong personalities. But even when we clashed, there was still the respect and love for each other. And, we would always come to a compromise. And he was amazing. Like the chemistry between myself, Stuart, and Les when we were writing Cruelty and the Beast was just amazing. Like it just kept coming and coming, all the ideas. And I listened to the remix and the remaster of Cruelty, and it sounds good. It could be better, but it's a better representation than the original. And I'm very sad that he's not with us anymore because, we planned on playing together again, and unfortunately, it never happened.
And do you have any relationship with the other member of Cradle?
I speak to John. I live in Canada now on the West Coast. And it's funny because John lives on the East Coast of Canada now in Newfoundland. And we talk, now and then on Skype and Facebook. And I speak to Les Lecter a lot. I don't know where Robin is. I haven't spoken to Robin in years. And I certainly don't talk to Danny.
And now let's talk about your story with Dimmu Borgir. You mentioned it before, and yeah, your story from the beginning at the end, and the album you released with Dimmu Borgir.
So, when I quit Cradle of Filth, it happened very quickly, actually. I quit Cradle of Filth like on the Monday, and on the Wednesday, I was flying to Norway to audition for Dimmu Borgir. And we played several songs from the Enthroned Triumph of Darkness album. And everything went great. And they said, yep, you're in the band. Let's go into town. So we went into Oslo to celebrate, and we got drunk. And then I did the world tour for the Spiritual Black Dimensions album. And then once we'd finished the world tour for that, we started writing Puritanical. And Puritanical was very special because it was my first time writing with a Norwegian band, and we had great chemistry when it came to writing the songs. And everything went great. We recorded it in Studio Fredman in Gothenburg in September 2000. And people know Studio Fredman from At the Gates, In Flames, Arch Enemy, etc. And then we did the world tour for Puritanical, Euphoric Misanthropia. And we played many places, like US many times, Europe, many festivals. We went to Japan, South America. And then when we finished with the world tour for that, we started working on Death Cult Armageddon. And that was another great album. I was more involved in the first album, Puritanical, than I was Death Cult. And then when we made the video for Progenies, it went to #1 in Germany, etc. And we did the world tour, and then things weren't working. Shagrath, I think Shagrath felt threatened by me because I'm a very strong person, and I have a lot of strong ideas, and he just wanted a drummer that sits at the back and doesn't say anything, and I'm not that kind of guy. I think he felt threatened by me and felt like I was stealing some of his limelight, which was not true. I have great respect for him, and it's just a shame. He's the boss, So when he's not happy, things change. So he called me up and said, "You're fired." It was actually on New Year. I think it was around New Year's on 2004. He told me I was fired, and I was very upset about it because I gave those guys 6 years of my life, 5, 6 years of my life, and so after I was fired, I went to Los Angeles and I started to work with Brujeria.
At that point, let's talk about your adventure with Brujeria.
Yeah, well, I've always been involved in Brujeria since 1999. Um, when I quit Cradle of Filth, it was at the end of a European tour with Napalm Death. And Shane Embry, the bass player from Napalm, he invited me to go to Los Angeles with him for New Year, just for a vacation, because I told him already that I'm thinking of quitting Cradle of Filth. So he said, "Well, come to Los Angeles with me, have a vacation, and see how you feel when you return." So while we were in Los Angeles, he was recording the new Brujeria album, Brujerismo. And the guys asked me, "Oh, do you have any drum beats?" And I had some drum beats that I was going to use for Cradle of Filth. And I played them to Dino Cazares, and he loved them. And we wrote some songs. I co-wrote 3 songs on the Brujerismo album. And because of that, they said, "You're in the band now." So from 1999, I was in Brujeria on and off. When I was not available, they used other drummers because I had other commitments. And that was always the nature of that band. If somebody's not available, then we just use somebody else. And then I went on to record 3 records with Brujeria, um, Brujerismo, Poncho Aslan, and the last one, SOS Brujeria.
Let's talk about your experience with Old Man's Child.
Oh, that was great. Golda asked me to play drums because we were in Dimmu Borgir already. So it was very easy for us to rehearse, and work out the songs because I was in Norway with Dimmu. And yeah, so it was really easy. And we went to Studio Fredman again to record it in 2 weeks. And yeah, I think it's one of the best Old Man Child albums.
Now let's talk about your other collaborations with Look Up, Gorgoroth, and more recently with Ancient and Shining.
Well, with Lock Up, it was a band me and Shane formed in 1998. We wanted to do something like old school, so we recorded with Andy Sneap the first album, Pleasures Paved Sewers, and then we recorded another album in 2001 called Hate Breeds Suffering. And then Jesse Pintado from Napalm Death passed away, who was our guitarist. So we kind of went into a break for some time, and then we recruited a new guitarist called Anton Reisnegger from the band Criminal, and the old school death metal band from Chile called Pentagram. Not to be mistaken with the stoner band Pentagram. This is the underground death metal band Pentagram from Chile. And he's the new guitarist, and we recorded um, the new album with him, Necropolis Transparent, around 2010. And then we did some tours for that. We toured Japan with Brutal Truth. We did the Maryland Death Fest. We did a tour of Scandinavia with a band called Gadget, and some other shows here and there. We went to Asia, went to Indonesia and Malaysia, which was good. And then we got a new singer, Kevin Sharp from Brutal Truth, because Tompa was busy without the Gates. And then we recorded the Demonization. And with that album, I'm very proud of the drumming on that album because it's the fastest I've ever played. And I also use rototoms like Pleasure to Kill by Creator and Seven Churches Possessed, and Sepultura Schizophrenia. They all use these rototoms. Yeah, I decided to quit after that album because I wasn't very happy with the way things were going. And then with Ancients, I was involved with Ancient for quite some time, but I recorded an album with them, Land of the Dead, Back from the Land of the Dead, and they have a new drummer now. Yeah, they're great guys, really good guys, and yeah, I wish them all the best. They've just done a tour in Europe with Absu, which I believe went very well. So yeah, and the album seems to do well too. So it's good. And The Shining, well, how that came around was Nicholas. He reached out to me and he said that he'd wanted to work with me for a long time, but things didn't just work out. And so this time it worked out, and I went over to Sweden to Andy LaRocque's studio from King Diamond, and we spent 2 weeks there recording, and it was great. Really happy with the results. It was good to play black metal again. And with Gorgoroth, that was I was just hired as a session guy for a tour, and then they went through the big court case, fighting over the name, and they lost and had to change the name to Godseed, and that's why the Wacken video, it was originally Gorgoroth, but they had to re-edit it and change it to Godseed so they could only play certain songs. But yeah, that was interesting as well. I really enjoyed playing in Gorgoroth because it was like real Norwegian black metal, no keyboards, which was nice. I like that.
Cradle of Filth was not, I said, for a t-shirt in particular. Do you know what I mean? Vestal. What do you remember about that period? You was arrested in Rome for this, is true?
No, I wasn't arrested in Rome. Danny was arrested in Rome, in the Vatican. I was arrested in Dover, in the UK. Our bus broke down on the way to Dynamo Festival, and it broke down right outside the police station. And it was a hot summer's day, so we said, "Hey, let's go find a bar and have a drink." And as I stepped off the tour bus, a cop saw the T-shirt and he said, "Ah, blah, 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 blah." And I think he was a hardcore Christian because he really gave me some problems. And I was kind of rude as well. I told him to fuck off. So he arrested me, put me in handcuffs, and threw me in a jail cell for 4 hours. And I had to go to court and plead not guilty to a blasphemy law that dates back to the 1600s. I pleaded not guilty anyway, and I paid the fine, and it was okay.
My two questions are, what do you remember about that legendary tour with Emperor? And you have continued to follow Cradle of Filth. What do you think about their change of style during the years?
Well, the Emperor tour was great because black metal was such a new thing then. It was new and exciting, and death metal was stagnating. It was kind of dying, and you could tell that this black metal was rising from the underground. And the Emperor guys, they never played outside of their hometown before, and they were only like 17 years old, 18 years old. And I remember they were very quiet, very polite. But by the end of the tour, they began to talk more and they became more friendly. And we've been friends with them ever since. It was a great tour. Um, we were all young, so it was all exciting, sleeping in the van and stuff, and the brotherhood thing. Um, and it's yeah, we've been friends ever since. Um, as regarding to Cradle and how they've changed over the years, I mean, it's bound to happen because when you have so many band members, changing all the time, it's going to change the style because it's different musicians all the time writing the music. The reason why they have so many band members is because it's always because of money, and how band members are treated by a certain individual.
If you want to be remembered for an album in your career, an album you are particularly proud, which is and why?
I'm proud of several albums. I'm very proud of the Vampire EP by Cradle of Filth. I'm proud of the new remixed version of Cruelty and the Beast. Stuart's guitar playing is amazing. I'm really proud of the Dimmu albums, The Old Man's Child, and the last lockup album, Demonization. Very proud. And also The Shining, too.
You are one of the most versatile drummer of all time. What is the secret for playing more different genius and more different style as you do?
Because I'm self-taught, um, I don't really, I just play from the heart, really. Groove and groove is very important, and feel. Blast beats, anybody can play blast beats, but the real genius, I think, comes from inside the heart and like the feel and the groove. And I've always loved guitars, so I always try and listen to the riffs very carefully and the movement of the riffs, and how I can construct the drum patterns to complement the riff the most, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for staying today. Before I can say goodbye, remember all to donate Nick Barker GoFundMe for the cures. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.